There we go. Nailed it. Love it. Love it. Love it. When we can start a podcast with no dramas as yet. So that's brilliant. We've made it through 16 seconds. Just a whole load more to go. Welcome. Welcome on the back of a 4-2 win, which was, I thought, a pretty good performance over Everton, but ultimately to no avail because we are out of the Conti Cup. So spoiler alert, if you didn't see it yesterday, probably don't worry too much because there's not a huge amount afterwards. As you can see here, we've got a cracking panel today here. We've got, as I said, newbies, old bees, people that have been here for a while, bees, all sorts of bees. To my right, we have Sarah, a brand new person for us. How you doing, Sarah? You all right? Okay, well, we're going to have to practice the unmuting. There we go. Try that one again. Are we all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's nice to be on. Thanks for having me.
No problems at all. Thank you for joining us. And Shane, lovely to have you there. You are, of course, our resident I was there person today, so that will be quite helpful. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Slightly warmer than it was last night being up in the stands, but yeah, all good.
I can imagine. And of course, we've got Andy, fresh from work. He's managed to get himself in, straight in. The commitment is fantastic. You all right down there, Andy?
Yeah, good to make it on time. Get home, eat tea, bath the child, and then straight onto YouTube for you lovely people.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And of course, last but by absolutely no means least, we have Helen down there as well. Are you okay there?
Hi, yeah, I'm all right, thank you.
Excellent. Well, like I say, thank you all for coming on. And my hope is that we are going to have a really good conversation about this game, because I think what was really interesting about this game for me was that there was a bit of a mixture. Mark Skinner had said before the game, we're not going to rotate just for the sake of rotation. And that seemed to be the case. He did seem to, dare I say it, there seemed to be a bit more thought, or perhaps even a bit more possibility for selection in terms of what he'd done. Yes, he put Bagley in goal. On a back chair, obviously, he started the game. He started with Millie Turner as well, gave Tunkara a chance. Thor went back out on the left, which was perfectly reasonable, I thought. Vilde Boe-Risa, people have been calling for her to be given a chance, and she was. So there were some good performances across that pitch. I feel we have to start in one place, and that is with Vilde Boe-Risa, purely because she scored within 60 seconds, which kind of made it impossible to start a story about the game of yesterday with anything else. So let's go there straight in. We'll kick off with Shane. You were there. Did Vilde Boe-Risa look as good to you as she did to the rest of us, particularly in that first half when United were on top?
Yeah, I thought she did. Good positioning for the goal. Got herself in the mix. She was putting herself about. Some really good tackles as well. From a defensive perspective, but further up the pitch. I know some people say, like, you defend from the front, don't you? And she did that really well in the first half yesterday, I thought.
Excellent. Sarah, I think you were watching on the TV much like the rest of us. How did you feel about Vilde Boe-Risa's performance yesterday?
Yeah, I was really impressed by her. I was glad to see her get the start. I think we'll talk a bit more about this, but I think it warrants, giving her more starts. She just made an instant impact. You couldn't hope for any better, really.
Andy, would you echo those sort of sentiments?
Yeah, we know what she's capable of. It's tricky to say that she should be in, starting bigger games because we're playing so well in the league and you've got Ella Toon to compete with. But it's always good to get that pressure on the first team and put a hat in the ring for getting more time on the pitch in the league.
Fair point. Helen, you pretty much going along with what's been said, or you got some sort of bombshell opinion to throw out upon everyone immediately?
I think it was almost like the shackles were off for her. She could just go and express herself. Maybe, I don't know, she thought I might not get another chance soon, so why not just show what I can do? And that proved it with her performance, I think.
No, it did seem like a very fair point. But I think we've also got to, and it feels like we do this every time she plays, but we've got to talk about that ball as well from on about Jade to kick off with, because it was delicious, wasn't it? Would be the word I would use. A delicious little ball coming through the air. And really, it would have been, I think, harder for Boe-Risa to miss than it would have been to score, really, because it was just put perfectly for her. But then she went on to go and get a second one as well. 2 goals, that is something. And Sarah, you said that you feel like that perhaps opens it up a bit more for discussion. So we'll start you off with a nice, easy question. If she's going to play, who do we drop?
Oh,
Who
yeah,
does she
I've really
go for?
dug myself a hole there now. Yeah, I don't know. I've like the more I think about it now, I would not be in favor of dropping Toon. I mean, I think that'd be crazy. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I actually don't know. I would even if she came off the bench, I would just like to see her get more minutes than she has been getting, you know, bring her on earlier in the second half and see what a difference she might be able to make.
No, absolutely. And Shane, going through what we just said here, I think Andrew's made a really good point. He's definitely staked her claim for more game time from her performance. She's done that. I mean, I don't, you know, you have to be a moron, I think, to say that she's not had a really good performance there and knocked on the door of Mark Skinner's office there. But then you've got this problem. Toon, Zellum and Ladd, all in fine forms themselves at the moment. Toon's just found her feet again. Zellum is just so consistent all the time. And Hayley Ladd just offers more in that engine room than perhaps any other player at the club. How does someone like Vilde Boe-Risa displace these players? Has she just got to wait her turn and hope that she gets the opportunity to become, you know, is it like an injury or something like that? What's it going to take for Vilde to be truly given that opportunity, do you think?
Well, first of all, it's putting in performances like she did last night. Because if you're going to go and ask to play more, you've got to back that up when you're given the chance to do so. And she did that last night. So, given the rotation we did last night, I can't realistically see her suddenly throwing into the first 11 on Sunday when we play City. Because clearly the rotation was done with that game in mind. So, I don't think it's an immediate displacement. But as long as you perform when you've got the opportunity to, I think, yeah, you know, that's the best thing she can do.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's the timing element is almost unfortunate for Vilde because, like Shane says, you know, she has a good performance, but it's 3-4 days before a big game that the rotation is in preparation for. So the chances to come aren't going to come soon because you've got City, then you've got one more cup game, and then a month off. So it's the timing's unfortunate, but that's just what she's got to keep doing.
I have no idea what just happened there. I was just trying to give TJ's message on there. It's like, it's not working. What's happening here? And then it just went.
All right. We
You're
kept
not
it
connected to the internet. I think I'm linking where I am. I can see it there at the bottom. So StreamYard just had a bit of a mare there. It's been, no, we're not having none of you. But well done, everyone. You just carried it on nicely. But I've got no idea what was just said. So Helen, whatever those two just said, would you like to follow on from that?
Yeah, so Andy said that the timing was unfortunate for Vilde to get a start with limited games coming up in the future for the rest of the year, and probably Mark had already made his mind up about the City game at the weekend. But yeah, there's not more she can do, really, is there, to put the performances in when she gets the chance. And hopefully, it's, you know, you don't want your teammates to be injured, probably, so that you can get a chance in the starting 11. But and hopefully in the new year she can get more opportunities.
Correct. And I think Sarah's got it spot on here. Don't think she's a starter, but she's got to start coming on as a sub with enough time to make a difference. And I think it's kind of that, really, isn't it? She's just at the moment going to have to make do with being a player that comes on as a substitute. Because let's be brutally honest, you can't drop players that are doing as well as they are. Your hand's up there, Andy. I can't tell if that's because you want to say something or you need the toilet. Either of them is fine. Which one is it?
It is to say something. Last season, I would have agreed completely with that sentiment. But this season, we're holding on to games. We're keeping control of games. So whatever you prefer to see, you can't argue with the results of what is happening.
Absolutely. I think that is the key thing. We said that last season, all the way through. We're not holding on to the games. We're not doing what we should be doing. I think you've made an absolutely perfect point there, because this season we are, and this season You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. We're in a title fight, boys and girls. It's a title fight, not just top three. So there we go. Let's just move on briefly then to the actual goals properly. On about Jade, I mean, again, she was superb, but that cross, you know, I don't know that it's been, that was something else, wasn't it? That was right out of the top drawer. Would you say so? I mean, you were there, Shane. Was it as good as it looked?
Yeah, but it's that's standard honour, isn't it? So from her standards, it was average, but
okay, fair enough. Well, you've got to go and press your favourite. Yeah,
it was still good though. It was still good though. For anyone else, that's an immaculate pass.
So, what did you think of Vilde's second goal then?
Good movement, you know. But I think it was Martha Thomas put the ball in for a good cross from her on the right. And yeah, it was good movement. The keeper wasn't anticipating her to run across the front of her, I don't think. So the keeper's sort of ready to just go and pick the ball up, not paying attention, and Vilde spotted that, ran in front of her and nicked it in. So it was good awareness and good positioning from her.
I mean, I've got to say, we watched that Martha Thomas. There was a call on here recently. I can't remember which one it was. The last show that we had, I think. And they said that they thought Martha Thomas was doing much better down the right now, and that obviously they thought she had such a good season that she should perhaps be starting out there on the right. I don't recall last season there being too many crosses from Martha Thomas to the level that one was, and it was perfect to near post. It was a great run by Vilde Boe-Risa. But Sarah, I don't know if you saw the same thing that I saw watching on the FA player, because I'm not sure what part of her body that came off of, but it certainly didn't look as sweet as her first goal. It looked very much to me like she just sort of went, and in it went. It was more a case of connecting. Was that what you saw?
Yeah, it was kind of, I actually think I have to say I hate the feed on the FA player. It's very hard to see sometimes what's going on, and just but I would be of the same opinion as you. I don't know, but Thomas as well, I think for me was one of the best players on the pitch, certainly in the first half, especially. Like, I just, you know, she was everywhere all the time. It kind of reminded me of how Toon played at the weekend, similar kind of style. It was really good to see.
Absolutely. And do you think, Andy, that the movement that Vilde Boe-Risa showed there is something that we've missed? Or do you think we're seeing that a lot more across the board now? Because I think Charlie made the point about the game at the weekend. At times we had sort of 5 people in the box. We were just getting more people forward, more opportunities to get the ball. Do you think that's something that Mark's working on? Or do you just think Vilde was literally like, I'm just going to get in the box because I need goals?
Well, I think we've got a lot of forward-thinking players. And, you know, Mark's got the players to do that with and the depth to do that with, because nobody can be complacent in that front 4 or 5 if you think of a number 8, so to speak. So I think there's pressure on everybody to perform. We want to score goals, and you can tell that from the way that we've been playing. I think Vilde hasn't necessarily always played as a 10, because she's tended to be fitting alongside Toon at times rather than instead of. So getting that number 10 role to herself has given her that freedom to express herself and go forward and be more progressive.
Absolutely. And what I will say, Vincent, just to this one, I think, yes, but I don't think that's necessarily to do with the camera. I think that's just to do with that lovely little thing we've got called the internet. And it makes everything lag. It's the same reason why if I watch this on the TV, I'm sort of 30 seconds behind everything else that's going on. So it's a very strange experience. I wouldn't recommend it. Watching us, of course, I would recommend that bit. Just don't watch at the same time as you're recording it. That bit would be a bit silly. While we're there, by the way, we're 17 subscribers away from 1,000 people, I'm reliably informed. And I was having a chat with Charlie. I wasn't really, but she's our maths guru, so it seemed like the right thing to do. And there is exactly 17 days until Christmas. So we just need one person a day. That's all you got to do. Tell a friend, one person a day. Click that subscribe button. And you too could make Connor a happy person at Christmas. So happy, he might even eat his turkey without his fork. You never know. Stranger things have happened. Helen, on a back shade down that right-hand side. We haven't had the chance to speak to you much about her, but unreal. That ball that came in, and with Martha Thomas, she can just work with anyone down that right hand side. It doesn't matter who it is, does it? It's just sublime whenever she plays.
Yeah, I think whoever is playing on the right with her can sort of always trust she's going to find good passes. She's going to do her job defensively. They might have freedom to overlap with her. They know she's just got that relationship with them. So I think she's become a really integral part of the team in that, defensively and going forward.
I can't. It's happened again. Rachel Williams is, I think, a rather fantastic player. We've all got a love for Rachel. I've nothing else to say to him. That's it. You'll be getting my resignation at the end of this. I can't work like this anymore. Christmas, good Lord. Rachel Williams, I said she was going to score again. And she did. But what I really loved about this from Rachel Williams was, again, it was a good crossing again, I think, from Martha Thomas. Came out to Lucia Garcia, who then put the ball back into the box, and she was just there, just literally stabbed it home. It was a switch-yard pole driver, to be fair. That's now 2 goals in 2 games for Rachel Williams. Do we think she's starting to find her feet and that people are starting to know where she's going to be and what she's going to do? And does that bode well for the future with regards to Rachel perhaps being the one that comes on whenever we take off like Alessia Russo? What do you think, Sarah, about how Rachel Williams is fitting into this team and how we might utilise her going forward?
Yeah, I think it's very exciting, very promising, and obviously a player of her experience as well. Like the younger players can certainly learn a lot from her. So yeah, she's great to have in the squad, and I hope she keeps banging in the goals when she does make an appearance. But yeah, I do think she's really starting to find her feet now, settle into the team. Yeah, it's good to see.
I think it is. Shane, what do you think Rachel offers us, other than just a really excited Charlie?
That's the best part of it, isn't it? Her second biggest fan, isn't she? But look, she's a presence on the pitch. She can deal with the physicality of it when you need her to. She's energetic. She'll wheel run around. She'll even help defend. So she's kind of one of those all-rounder types of players, really. But yeah, with teams like Everton, especially the way they've been playing this season, they try to be quite physical. And they were trying that last night. And when you've got someone like Rachel who can combat that and, stand up to them, if you like, then it's only a benefit for the team. So yeah, let's hope she keeps banging the goals in when she's on the pitch.
Absolutely. I mean, she's scored 2 at the moment, which is right up there with Nikita Paris, who hasn't managed to get one since I said that she was our top scorer, which she was at the time, and now she's not. So that's my fault, my bad, Keith. Sorry. But Andy, you just said it there. That's 2 games on the trot. Do you envisage a world in which Rachel Williams comes on, Williams even, so I don't know who William is, comes on against Man City and scores the winner? Can you see that happening?
I'm not sure she'd be coming on if we're drawing that game. Depends on how the game's going. I think she's more likely to be coming on if we're ahead and need to tighten up a little bit, which sounds daft for a striker, but she gives that bit of caution, bit of wisdom, and that calmness to just do the right things to see the game out, which we lacked last season. But considering she's just scored 2 goals in 2 games, if you've already got Martha Thomas on, who you'd expect to be your second choice striker, but she's playing more out wide and doing well at it, maybe if you're in the last 5 minutes, players are tired, why not? She gets about, she gets stuck in. Why not?
And do you think, perfect points, by the way, love that. Helen, do you think that having someone like Rachel has turned into a positive? Because let's be brutally honest, when she arrived, there were a lot of people that I saw on the Bird app who were not impressed. I feel that she has shut a few people up with her performances and the way in which she has applied herself. How important do you think that hard work and that energy that she gives is to the rest of the squad, not just to her and her performance.
Yeah, well, she's setting an example, isn't she? She's in her 30s, isn't she? So she's seen it and done it from the early days of the league, and obviously seen it turn professional, and just knows it inside out. So she can use her experience and just set the standard for everyone else with professionalism and everything. And yeah, I think her experience and her know-how has almost been taken for granted, I think, by some people, maybe just not expecting her to be useful anymore, or I don't know, like no good, maybe because she didn't set the world on fire at Spurs, but that's, I think, more to do with the Spurs team in general. But yeah, I think she's done well so far. Yeah.
Absolutely. Has anyone got anything else they want to add about Rachel Williams before we press onward a little bit?
Yeah, I think when she first came in, if she was your main signing that summer, then you look like you're lacking ambition. But as one of 7 signings, and the variety of signings that we made to add to the squad that's already got Alessia Russo in, you know that she's not coming in as the main striker. She's not an Ibrahimovic or Cavani type signing where it's an older player who's done everything and on the decline, and you're looking to get another year out of him to save a bit of money on a younger striker. You've already got that younger striker in place. You're not looking for necessarily competition for Russo. You're looking for somebody who's got something different to offer. And I think one of the things that Rachel's got to offer is some of the young players we've got will only know football as a career. It's great. It's brilliant progress. It's what we want to see. But while we've still got players available who've been in the pay-to-play generation, who've played football on top of full-time work, who've made sacrifices just to play for the love of the game, not expecting to make any kind of living out of it, that's a grounding that can bring a lot to a squad and give that connection to that dedication that's been there before. So I think as squad dynamics go, that element is a huge plus to give these young players a couple of years around that kind of player who's been through all that, and let them see this is what has gone on before to give the platform that women's football is now. Yeah, so I think even off the pitch, I think that's a brilliant thing to bring into the squad.
Absolutely. I mean, you said in a few of your fanzines we've had, I've forgotten her name off the top of my head, the Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle.
Can't remember her surname, but again, the players who have played for Manchester United women before, and it's so easy to just forget that there was Man United women before 2018. It's just this is the current incarnation of the team since they were resurrected and put back again, and that's the thing. Football didn't just start in 2018. It didn't just start with the WSL. There's a rich history when it comes to women's football, which absolutely should be picked up and looked at in the same way that men's football didn't start with the Premier League, for example. So absolutely good points, well made. I wanted to talk a little bit about Jade Moore. That's what I was going to do. And then I thought, you know what? No, I don't actually. What I want to talk about is how it is that this team that we've put out there on this occasion absolutely walloped Everton for 45 minutes, to the point that they made them take the player from Arsenal off, Gio, because they just knew they weren't getting anywhere. We've handed their backsides to them. That's what's happened. They've gone away with their tail between their legs at half-time, and they knew that to come out and do better. Now, where was that against Aston Villa? Where was that against Durham? What happened? What was so different in this game to those two? And I know that's a really tricky question to unpick, but we're going to have a go at doing it, panel, because I've got faith in you. I really do. Because I'm not sure I know the answer, but you all seem far more intelligent than me. So that's what we're here for. Find out that information. What on earth was the difference? Because it was still Sophie Bagley in goal. We still had Thor playing. We still had maybe one of like a Turner or a Mayer or a Batcher playing. We had all of these things going on. We were playing more. VBR was getting games. She scored against Durham. To be fair, she scored in the Conti Cup 3 goals, which was what we'd scored up to that point yesterday. So what happened? What was the difference in performance? Marcus said we should have gone out and done better. we were winning, we didn't hold on. What was it? Can you put your finger on it, Sarah?
It is a tricky one, and kind of made trickier for me by the fact that I didn't actually watch either of the two games as they were happening, because I was traveling at the time, so I couldn't actually get a stream. So but yeah, I don't know, I could be way off the mark here, but maybe the fact that, you know, maybe they just sort of woke up a bit, like, you know, it was taken out of our hands. We knew there was no option really but to win, and then, you know, depending on the rest of the results as well as to whether we could qualify, I guess we just had to throw everything at it. There was no other option really.
Okay, seems reasonable. Yeah, maybe that. Shane, what's your thoughts?
I think it's a good point actually, and I think maybe the cold weather, maybe it woke them up a little bit more and made them a bit more alert to what they were doing. But no, look, I think the first game against Villa, I think either A, came too soon in the season to make the number of rotations that we did. So I did say at the time, you know, with 9 changes going from what we'd been doing in the league at the time to that game, it was just too much, because you lose all your match rhythm and momentum really, no matter who the sort of 1 or 2 that you retain are. Whereas now everyone has kind of had a chance to get minutes under their belt at some point during the season, and we're now, what, 3.5 months into it. So there's a lot more match sharpness, match readiness, and then the circumstances. Sarah just said, you know, we kind of had to go and win that game anyway to even be within a murmur of going through the group. So if you don't go out and put a shift in to even try and put yourself in that position, then you do something wrong.
It seems reasonable. Helen, I mean, there's 3 things that have popped up here. So Tony said when we're at home, LSB, which I suppose is a possibility. I mean, TJ's put they knew they had to win, but surely they knew they had to win every game. I know they have to. I know what you mean when you say that. They had to win, otherwise they were definitely out. And the bench players being motivated for playing time, again, which I get, but surely they were motivated early on in the season to know that that's their opportunity to get in there. It seems a bit odd that we're getting to 3 games, as it would have been before, you know, 2 games really till sort of Christmas, and that we're not quite getting to that point of these players really settling into the team and doing their best. Ian Seeley, yeah, Villa was early season, absolutely. I can kind of live with that, and it did sort of go a little bit wrong. We did have the opportunity to win that game. Durham very much switching off. I will never forget the blue that came out of Shane's mouth when that final goal went in, and how much it was the same, shall we say, to the previous game. What do you put it down to, Helen? There's lots of things there. Which do you subscribe to the most?
Well, I agree with all the points. I don't think it can be just one thing, but well, maybe the players don't know themselves. I mean, we're trying to unpick it, but sometimes you just perform better, and maybe you don't know why. That's a bit of a cop out.
It's reasonable. Some people just wake up in the morning and go,
They have had longer together with each other, haven't they, now, as well as a group?
Yeah.
You know, I said that Villa was quite early on in the season, and, you know, with 9 changes being thrown in at that point, Mark maybe not settled on a set sort of, call it a WSL starting 11 at that point, so everyone's quite eager to show what they can do and force themselves into those almost more permanent plans. And maybe we've been a bit guilty of overplaying at times because we're just trying to show too much that they deserve as individuals.
Absolutely fair points. I want to throw this one out for you here, Andy. Connor's put no honour in the first 2. What do you reckon? An absence of honour? Is honour the clockmaker? Does she make us tick?
From what I'm seeing now, it's Google's fixtures, so it might not be accurate, but I believe Honor started in the second one of the cup games. So I'm not sure that we're right with that. I think Honor did play in the second one. Yeah. According to Google, he did. But looking at the other parts of the lineup, in that first game, you've got Millie Turner, you've got Maya Letitia, you've got Tunkara, who, while she's not played much, she's a quality player. She's just fresh from the Euros. You've got Hayley Ladd played in one of the games, one of the first 2 games. Martha Thomas played. We weren't short of players who are in or deserve to be in the first team. In the other one, we had Maya again alongside Tunkara. You've got Honor in one. You've got Nikita Paris, Martha Thomas, Adriana Leon. They're not particularly fringe players. Some of these are players that have featured quite a bit. And then in this one, you've got Millie Turner in again. It's not completely second string. But then I'd take the point, Honor makes a big difference. Honor, she's one of our most biggest attacking threats, even though she's a defender. I think maybe as the season's gone on, in the early games, you look at the cup and you think, let's focus on the league, or this isn't our primary goal. Even the first team players could see it as, don't push yourself too hard, don't tire yourself out. But at this stage of the season we're at, with the form that we're in the league, maybe it is a case of looking at the cup and thinking, this is my chance to play. I want to get in that team that's winning, that's playing well, that know each other. I want to break into it. It is a team to break into now, rather than early days with a lot more rotation. So there is a bit more incentive to look at it and think, I need to impress.
I would agree. And, again, I think we need to look at also the fact that last year we did really well. We made it to the semi-finals of the Conti Cup with some of these players that were playing in these matches. So, yeah, 100% I'm with you. You do make it incredibly difficult to do this, but yes, we will. Yes, I do. But yes, Ian, you are the next person who we're going to aim this at, because there was a travesty of justice last night, the likes of which, I was gobsmacked. I genuinely was, because I watched it on the TV and I just went, how have they got so far in front? That's impressive. And you know what? I did not even go mad to begin with, because I thought, well, the person that's kicked the ball must be in their own half. They must be. They have, for that person to be so far in front of our defence, that ball must have been played from our own half. Hey, go to my Twitter, you will see. No. They were almost in line with the people in the Barmy Army. So, Shane, was it on? Was it off?
I think if she'd have been any further offside, she'd have been stood in Walton Hall Park. Let's be honest. It's awful. How the lino doesn't see it is ridiculous. We're all there. We can see it, and she's ahead of us. So how the liner, who's meant to be keeping up with play, and at that point, I wouldn't argue it was very difficult for her to keep in line in our half at that point. So yeah, it's ridiculous. Again, we end up talking about officiating and quality of officiating, I guess, but I was a bit lost for words. I think what I found quite comical was, it might have been Ian that said this to me last night actually, but he said, I bet when we look at the replays on the FA player, I bet you can't even see her on the screen when the ball's played, so you can't actually tell if she is in line or not. You'll just see her get the ball, and that's exactly what happened. So I'm not suggesting for 1 second that the FA player is going to protect things like that, but when you can call that out, there's something going on.
Tell me about it. Now, speaking of calling out, when did I become the subject of the bad call here? It's like, when the ball's... Ian, talk about your fellow referees. What on earth is going on? And I'm going to ask the question. It didn't matter last night, really, because at that point, we were 3-0 up. It wasn't the end of the world. But do we see, be quiet, Connor, do we see any calls for things like VAR, anything like that to come into girls football? Because we all moan about the officials. Is it just going to make it worse? Are we just going to have bad officials using the technology and getting the decisions wrong still? I mean, you weren't going to get that one wrong. You watch that on VAR that's going to be offside every single time, regardless of who's looking at it. What's the general thoughts on that sort of thing? I know there's been Hawkeye and things like that has been thought of as well when it comes to things like offside, like they're using the tennis. I'd be quite up for that. I'd love a bit of the clapping as we watch. Oh, no, it was on. Never mind. What do you reckon, Sarah? What was it? Because that was disgraceful yesterday. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, I would be an advocate for VAR. I remember when it came in the men's game and just the complaints about it, but similar technology in rugby too, and just so I would be in favor of it, but yeah, I'm not sure if it would have made a difference. Bad decision making, like you said, it was always going to be offside, but would it have been the same call anyway? I mean, yeah.
Well, here we go. The ref has spoken. The assistant is a Premier League FIFA listed official too.
Not good enough to go to the World Cup, though.
But here's an interesting point. He thinks VAR would rule out VBR's first goal if I want it. Would you agree with that? I'm going to have to ask somebody other than Andy, so I don't know for a fact he's seen enough of that goal to answer that question. Unless you want to have a stab at it, Andy. What do you reckon?
Well, I have watched it a couple of times, but not looking for a particular fault in it.
No, me neither.
It would be interesting to hear what went wrong with that and maybe look it up.
Yeah, tell us more, Ian, why. But on the wider subject of VAR, do you see a call for that in women's football?
I think anything that can improve decision making, that can help, if it does help, if it's implemented properly, is a good thing. But I'm not sure it's the decision whether to or not to implement VAR in women's football. It's the grounds it's going to be at. It's, anybody that wasn't there last night was watching it from one camera angle. Are we going to have the necessary cameras for VAR? Have we got the funding for it to cover everything that needs it in all the grounds that need it, in all the games that need it? We're on our second season of the TV deal. I think that will probably play a big factor. The TV deals that women's football's got. Do the TV companies provide the cameras for VAR in men's football? Might be wrong on that, but I think it's probably partly down to visibility, pressure to bring it in. So I think it'd be great to have it, but the likelihood of it coming, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Absolutely. I mean, Helen, we've spoken a lot about the standard of refereeing. What VAR is probably not going to help us with at the moment is the sort of decisions that have been made on yellow cards, red cards, tackles, that sort of thing. But for things like offside and for the ball going over the line, for example, we think back to Honor's shot last season that hit the bar, clearly went across the line and came back out again. If it hadn't been for Russo putting it in, would have missed that goal as well. For something like that, you'd think that's got to be relatively simple maybe to introduce or not? What do you think?
I think you can't. The thing is with VAR, you can't do it in a half measure. You either have it the same way it is in the Premier League or you don't have it at all. I don't know if they can do a half measure, or some grounds have it, some don't. Because if you remember, if you watched the Women's World Cup in 2019, it was used for the first time and it was a bit hit and miss, but I think most of the decisions were correct with its use, although they took an age to make the decision. So it's sort of shown it can be used in the women's game, but I've no idea how to get there for the WSL or any other international games. Or I think they're using it in the Champions League latter stages, aren't they? I think
so. It would be good if they did, but I don't know. We're probably not going to solve that one tonight, but I think it's going to get wider and wider calls for that one. Shane, so your mate Ian has said, Rachel Williams clearly pushes over an Everton defender, allowing VBR a free header. Now, I'm going to put down what he put a bit earlier on All right, just so I can find that for context, whilst you're having your conversation about that and your thoughts on VAR.
Yeah, so while you were talking, I went back and watched the goal, so I can see where I knew that's what he was going to point out. I think it's utter rubbish. I just think the defender's clearly not strong enough, and Rachel Williams is an absolute beast, and you can't penalise her for being stronger than someone else. So it's perfectly fine goal in my eyes. On VAR, and I think Ian's mentioned it as well, that there was a mention about something called VAR Lite possibly being introduced at some point, which I think was going to literally be an iPad at the side of the pitch, not too dissimilar to what Mark Skinner and the staff will use in the dugout at the moment. Which I think the problem with that is they're just going to get the TV camera angles. So when you're on the FA player, no help at all because you've got one single camera. So that camera couldn't even have Jess Park on the screen last night, so it's never going to capture offside. The other element's obviously funding.
Because they are clearly off. That's what I mean. If they're not on the screen, they've got to be offside, surely.
Yeah.
Either that or she's literally able to move from one space to another.
This is the FA we're talking about, isn't it? But the other element's funding of it as well. Whether you get VAR Lite or whether you go full hog and get the full shebanging, but the funding of it, I feel, would be far better spent on making sure that we get the officials we've got up to a better standard. And to do that, first of all, you need to get the officials to be professional, because we still have officials that aren't professional, and we're a professional full-time league. When you're talking about WSL, I know Conti Cup's a mixture of top and second tier, but you've got to get the officiating up to standard before you can then give them this additional technology that in other areas of the game, i.e. Premier League, we still complain because it's the people using the technology that becomes the problem when making decisions. So if you're giving less experienced or less capable people, for want of a better phrase, access to that technology, are you suddenly going to solve all the problems with decisions maybe being wrong? And I don't think you would.
Yeah, quite. I mean, the irony, though. I mean, you mentioned about the officials, and then we had a Premier League FIFA listed one, and couldn't even see. I mean, maybe the sun was in their eyes. I don't know, but yeah, crazy. A lovely nudge off the ball is what Ian called that. A lovely nudge off the ball, and now it's a blatant push. Now that his referee mates are getting under the cosh. That's outrageous.
I think Ian's being reviewed, isn't he?
It's outrageous. He has been, absolutely. So lots of people think VAR's a long way off being introduced. Good for handball calls, maybe. But other than that, potentially, as you said, Ian's mentioned VAR Lite, which I've just got the Blur song in my head now, VAR Lite. We're even catching offside when we're going. VAR Lite, something like that. I'm going to keep.
At least they've got a theme song if they do want to go with it.
Shane, it's unbelievable what goes on in my head when these things are going on. It's like a myriad of ways I go to. But yes, absolutely. It was a nudge. They did fall over. And yes, absolutely. So,
sorry, the cat's just asked me to point out that having watched the goal back, there is a nudge. It was very, very soft, but I'd probably want it if it was against us. But what I do like is after the goal, most of the players run off to celebrate, and Rachel Williams helps the defender up that she's just nudged over. And then you see her arriving late to the celebrations. So maybe there is something. If she feels the need to help her up, maybe she has pushed her over, unless she's just a very nice person.
I think she might just be a very nice person, I really do. I think she might just have a heart of gold. So we haven't really got time to spend loads of time talking about Jade more, but it would be nice just to sort of briefly mention the fact that she did work very hard there in that melee. She got her foot to the ball, put it into the back of the net, or I say the back of the net, it crossed the line, we think, using the one camera angle that we've been talking about. But again, it's good to see, isn't it? Some of these players coming through and getting on the score sheet in the manner they did there. You would hope that that's going to give us that depth that we were hoping for at the start of the season, wouldn't you, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually, I watched that one back a few times in the highlights, and I still struggle to pick out whose goal it was, but she claimed it, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, I will say actually that it was weird. I was torn as a United fan between, being pleased with the number of goals scored, but also from the perspective of an Ireland fan, Courtney Brosnan, I was like, I kind of hope she doesn't let too many past her, just thinking about the World Cup next year. So.
Well, there we go. See, with Mary Earps in goal, we don't worry about that too much over in England. We just know she's a rock and it ain't going past that. But no, good stuff. And I suppose my last sort of question, Helen, I'm going to throw this one to you. It was 4-2 in the end. They scored the goal right at the end, which was a bit annoying. Everton had the better of the second half. I felt like when we came out for the second half, it felt a little bit more like a non-event. It didn't really seem to be happening. We made quite a few changes, which was ironic. We brought a lot of the first teamers on, and the performance just seemed to, I felt, just drop away. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, I think, well, they knew they'd won the game, I suppose. Although Everton did score 2, should have been 1. They weren't peppering the goal, really, until we put our foot off the gas a little bit. So whether that's a mentality thing, whether it was too cold to try and have the same intensity and keep going. But I suppose that you could point out that's a difference with teams like Chelsea or City. They tend to go for the jugular and just keep going. But I think we've got that in the squad. It's just bringing it out.
Absolutely. Anyone else got anything they want to throw on really about the Everton game? Maybe something to say about Sophie Bagley. She made a nice little save in the second half, pushed it onto the bar. I thought it was a save. Michael McCann seemed to think it just hit the bar, but I thought it was a save. So, I'm giving it to Bags. But anyone got anything they'd want to throw out a mention on that one, or should we start looking a bit further forward? Make sure everyone feels happy.
I think Sophie she did what she does. She as we know, Barry, you and me, we're not blessed with height, and I've always had my doubts over keepers who are of a similar disposition, but she always seems to prove me wrong in the long part of it. So, it was a typical Bagley performance in the cup. I think, there was nothing really that would give me too much concern. Not that I want to be concerned.
Fair enough. Good stuff. So, I suppose moving forward, we've got 2 games left of 2022. Obviously, we've got the game at the Etihad, which we can't call the Empty Had this weekend because there's that many tickets sold. That it's the Quite Fuller Had. We're going to have to call it. There's that. Then we've got Sheffield United in what is a dead rubber. I want to know what we see in terms of team for that. Obviously, we're going to put out the best team that we've got against Manchester City. I don't need that level of insight. Even I've worked that one out for myself. But when it gets to Sheffield United, what's your thoughts? Do we just throw out the devs? Are we that bothered? Do we need to give any of our first teamers any football? Is that a possible return date for someone like an Ethan Mannion to get a few minutes under their belt? Do you just leave it until after Christmas? What sort of thought did you have to bring that up? Sorry?
Your thing froze then, so I thought, you've had enough already.
Goodness. The reason I bring it up is because obviously Grace Clinton didn't even make it onto the bench in this game against Aston Villa. And no, not Aston Villa. And I find it amazing that she wasn't even on the bench. There was nothing else going there. And Mark Skinner said it wasn't the right game for her. We're looking for the way to get her matches. Surely to goodness, Sheffield United has to be the sort of game where we see Grace Clinton in the squad. It has to be, surely. It's got zero importance anymore. It's effectively a glorified friendly. It's got to be, hasn't it? The chance for someone like Grace Clinton has to be. Sarah, there was a question in there somewhere. I challenge you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it would be the perfect opportunity with nothing else at stake, just, to show Skinner, what you can do. And I mean, I think this game would have been the perfect one, to be honest. I didn't really understand that comment, to be honest. I mean, she would have been facing her former club as well, so yeah, I think a lot of people would have liked to see her, but yeah, to not even include her on the bench, I thought was a strange decision.
Very strange. Connor here not allowing us to ignore him again. So, but he makes a really good point. He's got to be involved against Sheffield, hasn't she, Shane?
Definitely. I'm not surprised that she wasn't involved yesterday. I think I agree with those saying that, you know, she should have at least been on the bench maybe as an option to come on. But I guess in the context of it, you know, when he's picking the team for yesterday, there's still a chance we can go through in the group. Obviously, we're dependent on what happened elsewhere, but, you know, there's players there that are ahead of her. He's openly admitted that Grace is one for the future. You know, so I wasn't surprised that she wasn't in the 11. I think including her on the bench would have been fine. You know, a couple of minutes towards the end maybe. But the fact that Sheffield is such a dead rubber game now, I don't think there's an excuse to not involve her. And to, you know, whether she starts or not, I don't know, because she obviously hasn't played yet. But getting her involved in that team at least has got to be vital, because if you can't get into a dead rubber game like that, when do you get in?
Well, this is it, and I think, Andy, this is the question for me, because I find it really bizarre. Not even on the bench since we bought her. She played in the pre-season friendly, and we didn't see her, not even on a bench. And you see it countless times on the men's side. You might see a youngster brought in, put on the bench. They're not necessarily going to come on, but they're there. They're part of the match day squad. They're part of everything that's going on around it. When I looked at the bench yesterday, I saw a bunch of first teamers, and what I saw from Mark Skinner there was, I'm going to give these guys a chance, but we've got these players on the bench if we need to change it, and if Everton come out and do well, and, you know, we need to go and nick a goal or do something to get a win. But surely there was space for a Grace Clinton there. Was there not? Or am I overthinking this massively? What do you think?
I think there was definitely room for her on the bench, but I think also what we're looking at is, do we agree that she's going to be a number 10?
I mean, you'd expect her to play where Vilde played, I would have thought.
Yeah, so we're desperate to get Vilde minutes, and then when she does get minutes, we're desperate to get Grace Clinton minutes, who plays in the same position. So I think we're not desperate to get Grace Clinton into the first team, whereas Vilde needs the minutes because she is a player that is capable of contributing to the first team, and to get her as many minutes as possible, I think, would be the priority. And even against Sheffield United, of course, we'd like to see Grace Clinton get on the pitch, but I think it's another opportunity to get 90 minutes out of Vilde. You're possibly going to see some first teamers get an extra week off over Christmas, because after Sheffield United, it's almost a month before we play Liverpool at LSV. So you're not resting anybody, but an extra week off over Christmas might be available for some of the first teamers. But I'd be expecting to see Vilde play a lot of that game against Sheffield United, with a view to her getting more minutes, showing what she can do, staking a claim, and getting her involved in the team more. I think that's more important than bringing Grace Clinton through at this point. That being said, I would absolutely like to see her get 20 minutes or so, maybe even start if Vilde features on Sunday. If she gets more minutes than we expect on Sunday, maybe you see Grace on the Sunday after. But I think to scream for a number 10 to get minutes who hasn't been, and then when they get minutes, scream that another number 10 hasn't got minutes, I think, where'd you stop?
It's a very good point. I do feel that I said loudly enough, I hope I did, that just not seeing her on the subs bench that I'm finding surprising. Not so much that she's playing. I 100% agree that Vilde would have been second in line to be to the throne, shall we speak, of Everton. But she's not even mentioned, not in the squad. She just, you know, everyone's there to pick from. I just found it a bit odd in a game like that to not be on the bench. And that's what I'm saying, really. Helen, when it comes to Sheffield United, she's got to at least be on the bench, surely. You know, if we are going to give first teamers time off and Vilde does start, that's absolutely fine. But you would expect her to at least make it onto the bench, even if not the pitch, surely?
Yeah, I think so. Has anyone thought maybe she didn't want to play, or she had something going on that she wasn't available that they don't want to disclose.
No, because that requires me thinking, and I wasn't there. I was
Just putting it out there. We don't know
point.
exactly what goes on, but it's good that hopefully she knows we want to see her play. We know we've had a glimpse of what she can do. We believe in her ability. We want her at the club, and we would have liked to see her play. And hopefully we can do in the Sheffield United game and be involved in some capacity, because she's already a fan favourite and she's barely done anything. So that's nice for her, I think.
Yeah, well, it certainly is. But I mean, that game against Toulouse, I thought she was, she looked really exciting. And I think that's what it is, because she came on in that game against Toulouse, looked like she was going to put herself about a bit, get involved a lot. You see that, you're eager to see a bit more. Don't get me wrong, she might well feature against Sheffield United and have absolute mare. And we all go, that wasn't that important, actually. So what you want, Mark, not a problem. But it's just excitement, I think, more than anything else. I put this up a minute ago because I did mean to speak about it. You're going to have to tell me more. I'm not entirely sure what you're trying to say here. And I left it up there for an inordinately long amount of time, and then just completely forgot to mention it. But yes, so TJ, you're going to have to tell us more. What do you mean it fits Skinner's MO? You will have to give me a bit more context on that one, I think. So we've got a big game coming up on Sunday. Nonetheless, we are going to be facing that little team from across the road, who are not going to finish in the top three this season. Unlucky City. We've got our preview and everything coming up. I want to know what your thoughts are before we get into all the professionals and all that jazz that Connor finds out. I'm more interested in the people that watch the game, the ones that are here with the heart, where the fans forum is. So Sarah, how much are we going to beat them by?
Oh, yeah, I've been thinking about this. Again, I'm probably way off the mark. I always am when it comes to predictions, but I'm going to go 2-1 United.
Very nice. Shane, how do you see the game going on Sunday?
I'm hoping that we're going to, turn up for a start, because that would be a good start. I'm hoping we maybe exert a little bit more control over the game than we might have done in the past. We maybe the last two times, we found ourselves behind, and we sort of, maybe out of desperation, we're clawing it back, and we're rescuing a draw. We're getting into a winning position, which we then drop. And so I'd like to see the sort of intensity that we went to Arsenal with, and control the game a little bit more, and hopefully score bags of goals and absolutely annihilate them. In reality, those big fixtures probably tends to have one goal in it, so I think I'd probably agree with Sarah's 2-1 prediction.
Okay, fair enough. Andy, whereabouts would you go with it? We've had a few interesting ones. Sang-Young up Lee, 1-1. 4-0, says Titus. Chris has gone 4-1 to United. Where do you see the game going? Because maybe I'm misreading the situation, but it feels like there is a lot more positivity around this fixture from the United camp than ever before.
Yeah, I think particularly following that Arsenal game, after getting beat by Chelsea, if that comeback hadn't happened against Arsenal, we'd be going into this game feeling a lot of pressure. And there is still a fair bit of pressure on it. It's the fourth of the 4 tricky games, with Villa thrown in the mix with that. And I think the confidence from the Arsenal game, that being at the men's ground and having an away end, now going to City away to the men's ground and having an away end, I think confidence is going to be high. I think we're going to be going in feeling a lot better about it than we have done about these top 3 type games in the past. And I think the way the defence has played, I'll be slightly pessimistic and give them 1, but I'm taking 3 for us, so 3-1 to United.
Very nice. Helen, how are you seeing it all unfolding? What's in the oracle?
I think if we can keep Bunny Shaw quiet somehow, then perhaps the rest of them aren't that scary anymore. There's no Caroline Weir, thank God. I know Laura Coombs has kind of taken up that mantle slightly, scoring from the edge of the box, but she's not as dangerous. So nullify Shaw I don't know if Hemp's fit or not, but I think Honor can take her on. I'm going to go 2-0 United.
Well, there we go. And of course, also no Georgia Stanway. So the chances are we are going to be playing against 11 for the entirety of the match. And we are not going to end up with half a player on our side. So, well, I love you, Georgia. You know I do. One of my favourite players, but she was a little bit kicky. The word. I'm going to go with that. So there we go. Hemp played 20 minutes yesterday, apparently. So there we go. Might well be about. We just need to clarify what TJ was saying earlier. So he's got his depth chart. For those of you that aren't into your American stuff, he's got his team, his squad list, and he doesn't dive deep into his bench, even on meaningless games. Yeah, I suppose that is a way you could use. So he would only rotate so much, which, to be fair, is what he said in the media, that he will only rotate if we need to, not just for the sake of it. So yeah, there we go. Well, I think we have covered everything we need to. We said we were going to review the Everton game. We definitely did that. We said we were going to take a quick look at how the Sheffield United game might turn out, and we have. And that leaves us really with just a couple of things that Connor would want us to do. A reminder for those of you that are in your predictions league, please send your scores in by Friday night. That's tomorrow night, so that Connor can use his sadly slower laptop than normal to try and upload scores. I might get involved as well. We shall see. And also, don't forget, I've got to say, I do love your cat, Helen, but it's got the eyes. It's got those cat eyes where I just think it's plotting some sort of takeover. It really is. It's like the one out of The Secret Life of Pets. I'm like, I feel like he's after me. The eyes on you, cat. But yes, we're looking for your favourite chance. So, Sarah, it's a really good chance to find out what you think. Sorry, Shane, I couldn't help myself. Andy's like, God, no, can't believe he just did that. What's your favourite Man United women's chant?
Oh.
You'll have to do this as well, Helen. So get scratching.
Oh, God.
And Andy, I don't know if you've done it yet.
I don't know. I've gone blank.
We'll go round. Andy's good at them. He writes a lot of them. So
Great chance to plug the songbook from the FC.
I did that the last time. I did say have a look at the song. In fact, we did tag that to the tweet. So
you did.
And when I say we, I mean Connor, because that's not stuff I do. Andy, go for it.
It's not one of mine, but I think the Leah Galton one just hits well every time. It gets everybody involved, and I like wordy chants, but they're not the ones that strike a chord when you're in the crowd. It's the simple ones, the bouncy ones, and I think that's a killer for getting everybody involved and getting an atmosphere going.
Good point. Helen, what's yours?
Vilde Boe-Risa. It played at half-time at Old Trafford, and the subs were doing some warm-ups, and she realised it was playing, and her and Staniforth had a little dance and were quite gleeful about it, which was really sweet. So, yeah, I think it's very good song. Really good for her.
We do love that song, for sure. And Sarah, we've gone round now. I have dallied as much as I possibly can to give you this opportunity.
Oh, God. Can I pick both of those?
You pick one of those. I mean, your name Eddie.
I'm not good at picking favourites, to be honest.
Honestly, I bet you used to go. You would have gone into the record stores, wouldn't you? And go, I can't decide which one of these I want to be number one. I'm going to buy both.
Yes, that was me. That is me.
Yeah. Indeed, I think Paul's got a bit involved in the song there. He sung it all in his head and then written out that lovely little bit. Brilliant. I'll tell you what, Sarah, tweet it in when you've had a little thing. Have a little look. Go look at the songbook on the Man United Supporters Club website. And,
This will keep me awake all night trying to
refresh
decide.
yourself. Well, it'll keep me awake as well now till I've got it. Well, actually sent it yet? No. I'm not that sad. Don't worry about that. Right. Anyway, thank you very much. I feel like that is a good enough place to end it, and I'm sure that Andy has had enough of me now. Oh, he hasn't.
I think Sarah's got something to shout out, quite a new venture of hers.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Oh,
yeah.
Hello, Andy.
Yeah, little plug. Now, I have a new blog. Now, it is brand new, so there's not much content at the moment dedicated to the women's team. It's reddevilwomen.com. So at some point, I'll be looking to grow that and get more people on board to, write match reports, opinion pieces, preferably a lot of match reports, because I'm not actually a fan of writing match reports. So it'd be nice to get other people to chip in with that. But so on Twitter, on Facebook, Red Devil Women. So
is that the one?
That is it. Yep.
There you go. I can spell. Well done, me. That's a winner. So there we go. Get yourself along to that one. And that is a great idea. And whilst we're here, Andy, I mean, as we're doing this, we shouted out the supporters club. We've shouted out Helen. Have a think. See if there's anything you want to throw out. Why not? But Andy, at the same time, you've got your balmy article has finally been printed and off the presses. Where would one go if we wanted to procure one of those?
Let me just see if I've got one lying around to show you. I have.
That was lucky.
Now, with this one, I do particularly want to show off this front cover because this was supposed to be on sale at Old Trafford. It's the 1958. I've given the front cover. We have a regular front cover on page 3, done by Namrata as usual quality there. But the front cover has been provided by the 1958 who pushed the Glazers out protests. So there's a little write-up from them inside as well. Really wanted to have this on sale outside Old Trafford, but it didn't arrive. I got a notification that it was in my porch while I was at the game at Old Trafford, which was frustrating. But it is available now. If you go to my Twitter, which is there, there's a link to where you can buy the fanzine. There's a big cartel store where you can get it from. Because this didn't arrive on time and I got a little bit of a discount on it, postage is halved, so you'll save a little bit of money on postage. It will also be on sale at City Away, outside of the away end before going in, and then at Sheffield United at home as well. And also, if you want to write for it, get in touch. Anybody's welcome. Anybody at all. Even opinions I don't agree with, feel free to write it and I'll stick it in.
You said there's only one rule, isn't there? And that's they've got to be polite. Was that it?
Yeah. It's not quite the same vein as the men's fanzines where it's quite close to the bone. It's tailored for the audience that women's football brings. But other than that, it's not censored. I'm not worried about upsetting the club. If you want to question the club, hold them to account. If you want to praise the club, anything you want, write it down without swear words and I'll print it.
There you go. And that was a big cartel, which, if I'm not mistaken, Helen, was what I think your cat's in charge of, was a big cartel there. Trying to do. So
Yeah.
there we go. I feel like we're leaving you out, Helen. So where could people find you if they wanted to listen to more of your ramblings?
So probably on Twitter.
See, it's on it. It's like, no, me. It's all about the cat now.
It is all about the cats, to be honest. On Twitter, just with my handle there. So yeah, I like to tweet along to the matches sometimes. Yeah, just say what we're all thinking, what the refs are doing or not seeing, and all the rest of it. So.
Like offside.
Right? I know, right? That was one of the things that we were both on. Should we tweet it? Mine's like, yeah, that's awful. But yeah, so just down there, I don't blame you for not doing what Andy did and trying to point, because I always point at the wrong thing as well. So yeah, it's all good. Brilliant. Sarah, lovely to have you. Thanks for popping on. We hope we can see you again. reddevilwomen.com. And of course, get your balmy articles. It's always a good read. Or you could use it to hold up your keyboard, as Andy clearly does too. So multi-purpose. Good stuff. Thanks all for everyone coming along. And we will see you tomorrow night, where we will be previewing that game against Manchester City.